We're doing a giveaway. The Actor's Instrument is nearing 100 subscribers on YouTube. So to commemorate this milestone for us, we're going to be giving away 2 softbox lights to 1 lucky subscriber. So make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already, and be sure to tap into future episodes of The Actor's Instrument so you can hear the exact details of the giveaway. I'll be doing another video like this once we hit 100 subs. We're going to insert it into a future episode so you can hear all of the conditions around the giveaway, how to enter, and how to upgrade your self-tape setup. All right, y'all, stay tuned.
I think sometimes actors get really caught up in like having representation, and that's where they put their focus instead of really putting like a focus on who's doing the casting and how do I get in front of them so that they remember me for other things.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Hassiem Muhammad, and you are listening to The Actor's Instrument, where we discuss the qualities that you need to stand out in the entertainment industry. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our listeners. Their handle is God is God, and I am not on Instagram. Thank you so much, man, for all of your comments, all of your support of the show. I'm glad that, the work is fruitful for you. Got a comment from you where you say, I'm going to tell you again, I love this pod and the work you're doing. Thank you. We really appreciate you. Glad to have you as one of our community members. All right. We have a problem. Celebrities are taking all of our jobs. Amongst the working class actor community, this is something that I've been hearing a lot since the strike. It appears as if A and B list Hollywood types have taken over Broadway, and the guest star and recurring roles on TV that were typically reserved for the workaday actor are now going to celebrities. Here to shed a little light on the situation is casting director Erica Jensen. Erica is co-owner of Calleri Jensen Davis Casting in New York City, and in her 20-plus year career, she has been a part of casting teams for film, television, regional, off-Broadway, and Broadway theater. Some of her credits include Thoughts of a Colored Man, For Colored Girls, Top Dog Underdog, and The Piano Lesson on Broadway. TV credits include Queens, Love Life, Dickinson, Lipstick Jungle, and The Path. And as one of the few Black casting directors in the entire business, she has been making Black history her entire career. Erica, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a great introduction.
It's all
I
you.
love it. Yeah,
I'm just reading it.
I love it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So excited to have you on the show.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, we've known each other for a few years, and
Yeah.
yeah, always great to see a familiar face.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is very exciting. And I'm so excited that you have this podcast. So it's
Absolutely.
great. Yeah. It's so useful for, for actors in the industry. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's
Hmm.
it's uh it's the wild, wild west out here, and we're all just looking for our path through. And one of the obstacles, if it were, that at least a lot of us feel is in our way is this whole thing around celebrity casting. So, Erica, are we going crazy? Are celebrities taking over? Every time I see a casting announcement for a big project, there seems to be a lineup of big names leading the cast. Even in off-Broadway productions.
I think that's true. I think that, well, I want to just give a little bit of context. I've been doing this, as you said, for more than 20 years. And this is something that has always been. I don't think that this isn't a particularly new situation that we're in. This has always been a part of Broadway in particular. Uh, and that's because it's a business and stars sell tickets
Sure.
in order to make uh to get through the noise. Like if you have a celebrity in your show, that's going to break through. You're going to get more attention. You're going to get more write-ups in the papers. You're the idea is that you'll sell more tickets. And it is a business, and commercial theater especially, that's what you're up against. And I do see also off-Broadway, has attracted more celebrities. I think that, part of that, is, uh, celebrities who wanna maybe test out, uh, their theater chops can do it a little more like, it's a little safer off Broadway. You're on a smaller stage. Um And off-Broadway, they're also, trying to recover from COVID and from the strikes, and, I think a lot of actors are also trying to recover from the strikes, and so you might have more actors looking to do things that maybe they wouldn't have been interested in doing before. But testing out theater off Broadway is safer, for actors, for stars than doing it on Broadway. So I think that that might also be a factor. Um, I think that where we can maybe take some comfort is, I do think that there are still opportunities, um, available. Before you and I started taping, for example, we were talking about Purpose. And Purpose is moving to Broadway, and technically, I think we have 2 namey people, Harry Lennox and Latanya Richardson Jackson, and the rest of the cast. Um, the other folks came from the Chicago production, and they're not stars, and then we were able to and then we cast, Carrie Young in one of the other roles, and, um, and I think that that one, I would say, is probably relying more on the, uh, the name of Brandon Jacobs Jenkins. And also just having, like, a really good product, a good play. Um, so, I think it just varies. I think it just depends on what it is. But I hear it, and I know that it's a frustration, and I don't think it's gonna go away.
Sure. And
Yeah.
and ultimately, I know I'm glad that you brought up this context of it's always been here and it's never going away because I'm one of those people personally, I'm not a fan of kind of ruminating on issues without offering solutions. I'm a very solution-oriented person. I don't like to complain. We were just talking about this, like, could complain,
Yeah.
but, like, what's the point, you
What's
know?
the point? Yeah. Mhm.
Um, I think about the casting notice that came out just a few weeks ago for Shakespeare in the Park, right?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
saw the cast. On one hand, you're like, "Holy smokes, like, that's gonna be a good show," you know?
Mhm.
And on the
Mhm.
other hand, I'm like, I can't even get an audition for Shakespeare in the Park.
No.
Like, it's like I literally can't even get an audi and I'm not saying that, like, "Oh, I think I can't." I'm saying, like, I've had conversations with my reps, like, "Can I get in the door there?" I'm not complaining. I have a
Right.
question. The question is, if that's a reality, what do we do to compete? What do the non-stars do
Yeah.
so that one day we can be the person sharing the stage with those names or have the name
Mhm.
ourselves?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think that, well, you let's sort of figure it out together. I think one of the things that maybe, so who casts Shakespeare in the Park? It's the public, the folks at the public. So then my wonder then is, how do you get seen for the folks at the public for other things? Like, how do you get on their radar for other work, and then they can then keep you in mind when, like, Shakespeare in the Park comes up. I think that that's strategy across the board. I think that a lot of, I don't know if actors understand always understand a relationship that that they can have with a casting director, how that can really benefit them. I think sometimes actors get really caught up in, like, having representation, and that's where they put their focus. Um, Instead of, really putting, like, a focus on who's doing the casting, and how do I get in front of them so that they remember me for other things? How do they remember me when they're working on something on Broadway and they need, uh and they've cast, like, their stars, they still have, like, maybe 6 other roles that they need to cast, and they don't need to be stars because they've already cast, like, the 3 people, the leads. So how do I then get in front of them for that? How do I get seen for that? And that's relationships. It's like, okay, have I established relationships with, casting directors?
Yeah. Well,
Do
because
I know that?
no, I was gonna say because casting professionals are people too, which I think
Yeah,
actors are quick to forget because there's some kind of unspoken hierarchy that
yeah,
I know at one point in my career I felt not really anymore because through the show and other means, I have literally sat across from so many casting professionals, and I'm like, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal." Um, but I do remember a time where it was like, "Oh my god, like, it's so and so that I'm
Right.
speaking to," and
Mhm.
so, yeah, you're absolutely right, that relationship piece is absolutely key.
Yeah, I think that's the key, I do, and I know the folks over at the Public very well, and I know uh that they do see a lot of folks, and um, for Shakespeare in the Park in particular, and I know that part of it is, again, like, relationship based. Where are these people, coming from? They're gonna see the folks that they have relationships with, and that they know like, people that they know are going to be able to be in space with the famous people.
Right.
Do you
Right,
know what I mean?
because you gotta show up and do the work, you
You
know?
gotta show up and do the work, you can't be starstruck the whole time, right? You can't, like, be in the room
It's
and,
Lupita
like
Nyong'o.
yeah, you can't, like you've gotta be
Yeah,
able to, like, work with Lupita Nyong'o, you have to be able to work with the director, with, like, Kenny Leon or whoever's directing, you can't, um you can't, you gotta make sure that the folks that
yeah,
you're seeing are gonna be able to handle it once they're in the room.
absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
is there any value because I feel like there's another strategy that has been in the ether of like, well, shoot, if they're casting names, I need to become a name. Like I need to become like famous. Maybe I need to become a
Mm,
social media influencer or a
mhm.
YouTube star. I- is there does that have any legs? Are casting professionals looking in those markets like to seriously
Mhm.
consider actors for roles? And does having a presence in those spaces make a noticeable difference?
Well, I'll say this, I don't I encourage actors to do the things that feel organic and meaningful and sincere, and you're coming at it from a place of true, like, I feel like I know how like, everyone's not gonna be great on, making internet content, right? So doing it and it takes so much work. It takes a lot of work. It's not just like you just shoot a video. You have to do that, like, all the time. That becomes a job. You know this because 'cause you're doing a podcast. I mean, like, organizing your life around maintaining a social media presence, that's a whole other thing. It looks easy because we pick up our phones at night before bed and we're scrolling through on Instagram and we're seeing all these videos and we see the same people. They work really hard. They're working really hard. It's not like you can just do that. You have to want to do that. Now that said, what in what I cast and what I do, um, social media presence doesn't come up in discussion that often. I'm not talking too much about like a person's followers or I think that might come up in other areas of casting, and I'm guessing it probably comes up a lot in things that, like Hollywood things. But my world of casting right now is very fixed in New York and regional theater. So, so it hasn't really come up. It came up a little bit, uh, when I was casting Thoughts of a Colored Man. There were some discussions about how to attract people back to the theater, and some of the casting discussions were a little bit around, okay, well, who's got social media presence that can also act? And how many followers does this person have? And part of that was not, it wasn't cynical. It was definitely like, how do we maintain the um, integrity of this project and also get audiences back from COVID. How do we attract people back to the theater? So I'm never in thankfully, I haven't been in a situation um where someone's social media presence is the primary focus. Thankfully most of what I've done has been done with a lot of integrity and a lot of thought. And a lot of like how do we get people to come and see this wonderful show.
Yeah.
Um,
That's I mean,
yeah.
1, that's awesome that you don't you haven't had to sell out, as they say, um,
Mhm.
and also it's just great to hear because, sometimes I'm on social media and I see people with, like, crazy big followings, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"They're still not famous.
Yeah,
They still not on
there yeah,
Broadway."
they're
they s
not, yeah.
they still not starring in XYZ TV show or film, like, it's not
No.
and maybe it's a tool, that's why I like to tell myself is, like, it's a tool, as you said, if you're good at it, if that's
Mhm.
what feels authentic to you to participate in, but it's refreshing to hear that, like, we don't need to force ourselves to, like, become influencers.
No, please don't. You'll be miserable. I mean, like, what like,
Y
what
yes.
if that's not authentic to you, like, if like, then that shouldn't be where you in the space that you spend time in. Um, it's very, very hard. I just think, we think it's easy. It seems easy, but it's not. It's not that easy. And I also think, going back to problem solving, I love this. I love that that it's about problem solving and not complaining. That's great. I think that, again, I'm just going to go back to relationships. I really, really think it has to do with relationships. I think I'm always going to go back to that. I'm always going to go back to, um, who knows me and how do I get to know if these few casting directors over here don't know who I am, what can I do to change that? Um, do I have an agent or a manager who can help facilitate, like, maybe a meeting with them? Or maybe, if I don't have an agent or a manager, is there another way that I can get in front of them? Like, how can I make myself known to these people who are casting things that I really wanna be seen for? And I just think that that's really what it's about. It's, again, easier said than done. Um, you know, I know you because, you were in a showcase.
Yeah. Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you got signed by your agents, and I started seeing you, because of that, and, bringing you in for things, and then seeing you in shows. And so whenever I have something that I think is, like, right for you, I see you, and I think that that's just, like, what it is, you know?
Yeah. Well, and it it also works both ways
Mhm.
because of what you just said, when my reps call and say, "Hey, Erica or Calleri wanna see you for this," then I also take a special consideration because
Mhm.
I know, like, they're calling Hassiem, and it's not like, it doesn't feel like random or like, oh,
It's not
just
random.
yeah, it's not like, oh, black male, early 20s and some it's like, oh, no, they think that I can come in and do a good job.
Mhm.
And so, just for the people listening, like, the relationship goes both ways.
Mhm.
Now, you mentioned something about, starting a new relationship with a casting director. Maybe people don't have the showcase.
Mhm.
Just for you, not speaking for anybody else, how would you like to be approached by an unrepresented actor who wants to begin a relationship with you, a professional relationship?
Yeah, the best thing to do is, and I'm really glad you asked this, it's such a good question, because I think it's just really hard. It's so hard to break in, and when you're unrepresented, it feels a little bit like you're at sea, and it feels very lonely, and you're like, "I don't have any strategies for getting in front of people." Um, um, one thing that I think is smart is, when you have I know that there are ways to get access to breakdowns. I know that exists when you don't have agent or manager. Um, and when you see something that's right for you, sending I don't mind, actors emailing me, and saying, like, but being very specific about what it is that I'm working on, and what they wanna be seen for, and being clear about, like, why they wanna be seen for it. If there's something about the role that really speaks to them, they have a connection to it that's maybe a little more personal, then I like to hear that, and 9 times out of 10, I will offer that person, to self-tape for it, and, you know, um so that's how what I like. I can't speak for everyone, but that's typically how what I respond to. I don't tend to respond to, like, sort of, "I know you're a casting director, uh,
Who casts things
who
from
casts
time to
things?"
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really respond to that because I don't know what to do with that person. I can't I need it to be I'm working, we work pretty fast and we have multiple projects going on. So I need the email to be really specific and be the answer to my problem. I can't let it, I don't want it to be, I don't wanna have to do more digging to find out, like, how to cast the person,
Right.
you
Right.
know? So emailing when you see something specific, um, I'm trying to think of other things, other ways. I don't know if you see that someone's gonna be on a panel talking about something somewhere, that's a great thing to do. And I know we have, like, mixed feelings about, like, the pay to play. I'm saying it in quotes, I'm using air fingers, air quotes.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, I don't wanna advocate for people spending, like, lots of money, but I also think that there can be times if you're having a hard time getting in front of somebody, if you see that they're teaching like a 3-week or 4-week class, not a one night thing, but if they're doing like an actual class where you'll actually learn something, then I think that it's possible that it can be useful.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
No, I'm glad you brought up the pay to plays because for what you said is what I think they're valuable for.
Mhm,
Meeting people.
mhm.
You can't go in expecting like, "Oh, Erica saw me in this one class, and so now I'm gonna be in her next Broadway show."
No,
Like, it's like it's a meeting.
it's a
It's an
meeting.
opportunity to meet, and it's although it kind of feels slimy because 'cause we're paying, what I
Mhm,
will credit it for is that it is fully within one's control,
mhm.
and there's so much in this business outside of our control.
Right.
But I can go to oneonone.com. We're not sponsored by them. I can go on to whatever school's website and see,
Mhm.
like you said, "Oh, they're teaching a class." Click that sign up button, pay the thing, and show up. That's
Yeah.
100% within my control. Yeah.
Yes, that is in your control, and I love that you brought that up about what you can control and what you can't. And I think, also just sticking with the pay to play and the schools, doing a little research before you, and, like, asking other actor friends about their experiences at places so that you're not getting scammed, because definitely there are predators out there who take advantage of actors, so you wanna make sure that the places that you're going to are reputable. The places that, have more of, like, a kind of a membership type of situation where you have to actually audition to get in, before they'll let you take classes. I find that I, it tends to be a quality of actor that is taking themselves seriously, and has and like not necessarily like people who are sort of toying with it with their like, you know, they're also like they're mostly lawyers, like, during the day.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah,
they're
yeah.
just trying to be, you know,
No, absolutely.
so you know what I mean? So I feel like, just make sure that you're, like, going
It's
somewhere
legit.
reputable.
Yeah,
That's
it's just
legit,
legit.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and if you have questions, make sure you ask around.
yeah. Now there's another problem that we have. Uh,
Okay.
actors, 99 problems.
Yeah.
Booking ain't one. Okay, so this Deadline article came out,
Okay.
where a couple of Atlanta casting directors said they spend just 4 seconds watching a self-tape before they know if, "Yeah, we're gonna move forward or not." I'm not asking you to comment on those casting directors, on your colleagues.
Mhm.
We're just taking that as, like, the framework for this question, which is, in your experience, how long does it take to know whether an actor should be moving forward in a process or not? Coming from a craft perspective, right? Like, I'm doing my self-tape, the thing is 2 minutes long.
Mhm.
There's gotta be I mean, it's no secret that, like, probably of all the submissions casting directors are getting, they're not watching the whole thing. So, how long does it usually take you to know, and what are the things that you see
Mhm.
that lets you know, like, "Oh, yeah, this is gonna be a good one."
Yeah. Again, really, really good question. And I did see that Deadline article, so I know um, it's such a good question. The good news about self tapes, which you already know, is that it does open it up for casting directors to see more people. And I will say that that's been a real positive. I've been able to see people that I might not have been able to bring in the room. Um, in the first round because of time and space, and, like, looking at resumes, like, maybe I wouldn't have been able to call them in because of whatever, but have been, like, pleasantly surprised by the number of folks that I've cast who are now on my radar that I maybe would not have been able to see otherwise. So I want to say that it's been the self tape, the bump in the self tapes has been mostly a positive experience for me, and I think most of my colleagues. I will also say that when I watch a self tape, I can pretty much tell in the first 10 seconds. I can tell. And this isn't to say that I'm not watching the whole thing. But I will say that I can tell pretty quickly if I think that if I think that the person's going to be what based on the descriptions and the discussions I've had with the director, what we're looking for. And that usually is because the sides that you get typically will have something in the very first moment that needs to be hit. And so if the actor is not hitting that first beat, whatever it is, then you can kind of guess that maybe they're going to gloss over the rest of it or have a concern that they're going to gloss over the rest of it. So you've just got to hit that first note. Um, and it's got to be clear. Everything just has to be very clear right away.
Yeah.
Whatever the relationship is need to be clear, like, immediately. Whatever is happening, the circumstances just need to be clear, like, right away.
Yeah, this is interesting. So it's not about like making sure you start off with some big bold choice
No.
to catch attention.
No. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. It's gotta be about, like, what is happening in that first moment, um, and, make getting that, you know, diving into that. Not a big, nothing it doesn't have to, nothing that's gonna make you stand out or worry about, like, nothing like that. It's gotta be just about, like, the acting and the storytelling and the relationship, like, everything's just, like, clear right away.
Yeah. No, great, great.
Mhm. Yeah.
I want to talk about your career a little bit.
Okay.
So another problem, man, we have lots of problems.
Lots of problems.
Well, in our industry, something that's to your context from earlier, that's always been a part of the industry and probably always will be, is the lack of diversity, both in front of and behind the table, as it were.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I feel like casting is one of those areas where there's a lot of work to be done, you know? So what does it mean to you to be one of the only Black female casting directors that's doing the work at the level you're doing it at?
Yeah. Oh, thank you for asking. Yeah, it feels, um there's can I wanna just, like, we've got and there's some great, women, Black women in particular who are, I'm sure
Yeah, let's shout them
casting
out.
directors.
Yeah.
Yeah, Destiny Lilly
Mhm.
is the president of the casting society. Um, Erica Hart is another, really wonderful, um, Black woman who's casting.
And who's
Sujata
been on the show.
Pace. Oh, great. Oh, good,
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
good. Sujata Pace is another
Mhm.
one, Portia Black, Danielle King. We've got, lots more, Black women who've gotten into casting since I started. When I started, you go to the meetings and there was me.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
yeah, this is like 20 something years ago, and, weren't really a lot of, there weren't any of us. And so, you know who was around? Aisha Cooley used to be in New York. Um, and
I've
then
I've
she,
gone in for her. Yeah, that name, yeah, I've gone in
yeah,
for Aisha,
yeah, she used to be in New York. But she didn't go to the meetings.
yeah. Aisha.
So I know it's like, it really was, there was definitely a lack of, and then something turned, and, I think part of it had to do with, I think part of it had to do with, um, understanding that this is a job, like, I didn't know that casting was a job until I came to New York, and I did an internship. I was fortunate enough to be able to do an internship, for no pay. You can't really, you know, uh, and it was because I was in grad school at the time, so I was still getting financial aid, but having access to a career like casting, um, that can be very unpredictable, and unless you're working for a corporate in a corporate situation, your salary can be very up and down. Uh, there isn't, like, job security for a while, you know?
Mm.
Um,
Well, because you guys are kind of like freelance, like
yeah,
us,
we're
at least certainly
yeah,
for
yes,
most
yeah.
probably starting out, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Until you're kind of with an a with your until you're with a company, that, has, a system in place for getting paid regularly and health insurance, you're just yeah, you're an independent contractor and you're freelance and you're kind of maybe bouncing around to different offices, and it's not, it's like the job with that's, like, adjacent to it's you're so close to, uh, the like, famous people, and you're very close to, like, a lot of, glamour and a lot of money, but it's not really coming to you. So, casting directors
Right,
aren't like
right.
we're not paid that well. We're not,
Mhm.
we're not, people I think that people think that we are, but we're not. And
Well,
we're
it goes back to my earlier point about there is this feeling that casting directors are in some kind of a power position,
Yeah.
and we equate that with all the things you just said, whether it be
Mhm.
notoriety or money or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have to fight to get credit, like, when we're casting something, like, you have to, like, argue to get your name on the poster.
That's
So,
crazy.
yeah, it's not like, it's a very interesting position to be in when you feel like when you're told that when it seems like you have all this power, but then, like, there's half of the industry not really taking you very seriously at all. Or they say that they do, but then you have to, like, fight for things. I mean, the New York Times, I think I don't know if but for a long time, everyone else would get listed. The costume designer would get listed, the lighting designer, when a show was announced, gets listed. The casting director's name was nowhere, and I still think that's might be true. Like, you don't
That's
see who did the
crazy.
casting. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah,
Mhm.
that is wait, yeah, you're right, 'cause, there have been times where I've, like, Googled to look up because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, who's working on such" like, it's not necessarily just put out there. Yeah, that's crazy. Um, in your, your what's becoming a long career, um, is there a particular project that's been, the experience was particularly memorable for you or special to you, f as the casting director for said project?
Yeah, one of my, the unique experience of casting for Colored Girls, was, pretty, special. It came again, it was one of the shows that came, like, right after, like, as we were kinda going back, into in person, after we were still going through the pandemic, but we were finally sort of, like, everyone was kinda gradually getting back to in-person auditions and getting back to seeing shows in person, and, so that was a really special moment for me professionally, and personally. Um, I was very, the casting directors of the Public, Heidi, had cast the production at the Public, and, uh, when it was moving to Broadway, she felt like it needed to be somebody else. She felt like it needed to be a Black woman casting it, and I was I was so touched that she recommended me for the job, and I was, and the whole process working with Camille, was incredible, and it was, like, her first directing, time directing, and, uh,
School of the
and
Arts
when we had
alum.
yeah, yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and then and we were having she insisted that we have, our sessions in person, and I was so grateful that she did because people came in and people were crying. People, like, actors were crying and, like, coming in and just crying and seeing each other and, like, hugging each other, they all, everyone's wearing masks and like, um, just it
Yeah.
was such a magical time, um, coming back into the space. And and then I just thought and I just thought what she did with it was beautiful and wonderful. And I was so, so excited. And then Kanita Miller was pregnant and we got to see Lady in Red on stage pregnant. And that was incredible. So seeing this pregnant woman just killing it, like, was really great. And then, her standby got to go on and make her Broadway debut, who is an
Wow.
actor named Rachel Christopher, who, like, I've known for years and years and years. And, like, getting to, like, have that opportunity, like, to get her cast her as the standby, and then the fact that she got to make her Broadway debut, that was, like, the greatest feeling in the world. It was amazing. It's like, this is why I do this. Like, it was
Mm,
incredible.
mm.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that
Mhm.
story.
Yeah.
And that final note you ended on just made me think like, yeah, actors, casting directors, like we're in this together, and
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
really
we
special.
are. It is, yeah. We are. We're in this together. I think that we need to be reminded of that more.
Absolutely. Now, I've got one
Mhm.
final question for you.
Okay.
This is the one I ask all my guests. Um, for you, the actors that you like to bring in the room, what is the quality that they all possess? What is that common denominator amongst the actors that you like to see in a self tape or in an audition space?
I like to see. Oh, good question. Again, really good questions. Um, uh, there's something about a person who is confident, comes in, uh, with their interpretation of the role, whether it's quote unquote right or wrong, um, and gives you the feeling that they're there to do a job. And when they leave, they have like a long list of chores to do. They've got to get to the grocery store. They have to like pick up their kids from school. People who feel like they've got lives, outside of this and that they're like they love what they're doing and they're very prepared and they're professional. And when they leave, they're gonna go and live their lives. And that just comes I think that partly just comes with experience. You can't most, newer actors can't, um
We don't have
y- y-
lives. You just-
yeah.
I just graduated.
Right,
This is-
right, right. I don't have a life. I'm just graduated. Yeah. But yeah, just like a certain level of professionalism is always great. Like being prepared, knowing who's in the room, um, asking questions when you need to, not just for the sake of asking questions. Actors who seem like they are excited about about the project, or like have done some research on the project. Um, and people who, make me look like I know what I'm doing. Again, like, in the, like, we're in this together. If I'm calling you in for something, it's because I know that you're gonna make me look good,
Yeah, you
and
got to
that
do the
my
work.
team and that my team is gonna trust me because I'm bringing you in, and I know you are gonna be professional and do the work, and my team is gonna feel like she knows what she's doing.
Yeah. No,
Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Erica, thank you so much. So much. So many
Thank
problems
you.
that we have maybe a little more direction on now. I'm not
Okay, good, good.
we can't I don't want to put the pressure of like solving these problems on
Yeah.
anybody, including myself. But I think you definitely gave some really concrete and tangible direction. Um,
Okay.
so thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you for joining me on the show. It is Black History Month. Um,
Yes.
and I just think it's super important for us to recognize like the people who've been making history in our industry. And for me, you're one of them. So I appreciate you. Yeah.
I'm very moved by that. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your podcast. I think this is really wonderful. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for having
Abs-
me.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
for my folks at
Mhm.
home, if you're in New York this spring, head over to the Helen Hayes Theater. Check out Purpose on Broadway, cast by Calleri Jensen Davis. Erica, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this conversation with Erica, then you'll love a recent interview I did with another Black history icon, Stephen McKinley Henderson. So be sure to check that out. Thank you so much for tapping into this episode of The Actor's Instrument. Shout out to our co-producers at Red Letter Entertainment, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Till next time, y'all. Peace.